We are Muskegon County at Work, spotlighting workers of local governments throughout our county, revealing what it takes to make our communities comfortable and safe. Welcome to Muskegon County Municipalities at Work. It's my pleasure, DJ Hilson here actually, my pleasure to be your host for the next several segments as we dig deep into what really goes on behind the scenes of the things that maybe we all take for granted. And I couldn't think of a better first guest to really kick this off than our own Muskegon County Clerk, Karen Buie. Hello, Karen.
Hello, DJ. It's a pleasure.
Well, listen, it's an absolute pleasure to have you on this journey, the inaugural journey, if you will, of this series of podcasts. And I want to dig deeply into a couple of things because I think I'm pretty confident that a majority of our residents, and especially those that might listen to this, really have no idea what a county clerk or clerk does. And I'm hoping that as part of this, we can help educate so that when people go to the ballot box the next time, they understand the qualities that are necessary. But more importantly, when the incumbent, such as yourself, talks about, what they've done, they understand how important those accomplishments are. So first, let's introduce yourself. Would you please tell us a little bit about yourself?
My name is Karen Buie, and I'm originally from Muskegon. Went to Catholic Central High School, Go Crusaders. Then went to Michigan State University, Go Green, where I majored in criminal justice and sociology and pre-law. And thought I wanted to be an attorney, but I went down the avenue of corrections. And I've pretty much worked in so many different departments that I've really gained an insight into the judicial system. I worked as a bail review officer for the courts. I worked in juvenile probation. I worked in state probation. I worked for Child Protective Services for the state. And then I proceeded to become the vice mayor of the city of Muskegon, which was an amazing opportunity. And while serving there, the clerk at the time decided to retire, and I was appointed by the judiciary to serve as the county clerk. I lost my election after I'd served for 6 years, and I went to HR for the county and worked as an analyst. And from there, I went to work as a management company for Waypoint Academy, and I did that for 3 years. And then I went to the airline. I took a totally different direction, and I flew for American Airlines for 11 years. I was in Dallas one day, and I got a call from the judges who said that Nancy Waters had retired and had asked if they would call me to see if I would come back. And so I talked to them via the phone. I was in Dallas getting ready to go out the country. And they said, we had already voted, and we just need you to say yes. So I did. I said yes, and I came back, and I actually flew for like 8 months and did the county clerk's job. So I didn't have a day off for 8 months. But it was so well worth it, and I was able to retire from American, and here I am now full-time with the county, and it's been a blessing heading into my second year.
I was going to say, recently reelected.
Yes, recently reelected. So I'm overjoyed. I love this job. Not too often in life do you get a chance to do something that you really love twice.
Yeah. Well, and your diverse background and experience certainly, I think, speaks volumes of sort of what your expectations are for what the clerk's office, the Muskegon County Clerk's office looks like and how it should be run and the various things. And we can certainly talk about that. But I really would like to get into the duties, because just so that you are aware, so I don't surprise you, eventually I want you really to talk about what it takes to put on an election, in particular with the new early voting rules, because I'll just give a little sneak preview to our listeners. You did a fabulous and outstanding job of really bringing a lot of precincts, a majority of the precincts in Muskegon County together for an extended period of time for early voting. But I'm gonna let you sing your own praises on that. But let's talk a little bit about the duties of the responsibilities of the clerk's office.
Right. Well, actually, I have two offices. One is located at the Hall of Justice on Terrace Street, and the other one's located at 1903 Marquette. Let's start with vital records.
Yeah.
Vital records are all your birth certificates, marriage licenses. We do CPL licensing there, DD 214s, and genealogy. And the elections division is located there. So basically from birth to death is located on Marquette. And we have a staff of 6 there, and we have some fabulous staff. But what's so interesting is in genealogy, we have records that go back to 1863. So we have to maintain that, and we work closely with the Genealogy Society. I also do weddings, which is one of my favorite things to do. And next, we have the Circuit Court Records. Now, Circuit Court Records is a very intense office because they call Marquette the happy place, and they call Circuit Court not so happy because the majority of people are coming in. We do divorces, we do paternity, we do friend of the court, we do emancipations, we also do PPOs, and we take care of all the Circuit Court records for the judiciary.
So we were talking about, so for example, if somebody needs to file a pleading, the document, let's say you're going to sue somebody, you're going to file the complaint, let's just say we're in circuit court.
Right.
So you're suing a major corporation for a wrong.
Over $25,000.
Over $25,000 by court rule and statute. Mm-hmm. They come to
us to do the filings, and we take in filings, e-filings, mailings. The lawyers pretty much do all e-filings now. And of course, we take care of all the circuit court records for from 1 year up to life imprisonment. Now,
obviously, it's more than receiving the document via email, mail, or
Absolutely.
in person. I mean, let's just walk through the process of what exactly, because ultimately, I mean, it's the court's responsibility to maintain these documents for a pretty significant period of time.
Absolutely. Once we receive the filing, whether it be e-filing or mail, the filing is taken into what we call our queue, and it has to be coded correctly. Everything that goes through the judicial system from the moment of filing on is our responsibility to ensure that it's coded correctly, because the coding determines where it goes in the judiciary system, whether the attorneys, the plaintiffs are served correctly, and that it goes to the appropriate judges. So once the filing is received, we code it, and then it's directed exactly to the department it needs to go to, whether it's the judiciary, the judges are pulled and assigned. And once the filings are done, all the court records are all electronically filed now, and the records are kept electronically pretty much. So we maintain all of the records from the start of the hearing or the case all the way to the conclusion, because a lot of times we get requests from the Supreme Court to review cases, so we have to maintain those cases. So some records are kept up to 100 years, depending on what it is.
Yeah, and obviously this is done with a staff of how many?
Right now we have 8. We have 8.
Okay.
So it's a very busy office, and I really appreciate the staff at Circuit Court, because a lot of times our clientele isn't like any other clientele that the majority of people deal with when they're dealing with customer service. They're emotionally distressed a lot of times, or if they're the PPO complainant, a lot of times you have the alleged perpetrator coming in. You have people filing for divorces. You have family court issues. So a lot of times you have to have the personality to deal with those type of people and learn how to de-escalate, but still make them feel that they've received the service that they deserve too.
You may, and this is not a trick question, so a guesstimate is fine. But on average, how many various filings does Circuit Court Records see in a day or a week, would you say?
Usually our filings run from anywhere from 200 to 400 a day, because they're coming from everywhere.
So, I mean, people have to put that in perspective, right? You've got 8 people doing a lot of different things.
Absolutely.
Working the desk, customer service, receiving these 200 to 400 filings a day, making sure they get to where they got to go.
Because there's time frames.
Yes.
Yes. So, yes, it's a busy office. It could be high stress, but we have wonderful people working there. My deputy is Ivy Wiltenberg, and she's been around the county for 25 years or more. So she is very well versed in every aspect of circuit court. And we're trying to expand it. We just received a grant through the Michigan State Police where we can start doing fingerprinting right there at circuit court so we can help the other departments because we want to be a team. And then we're going to start going out to the various sites that offer the CPL training and do the fingerprinting right on site so we can be a better service for those individuals that are going through the training. They don't have to run anywhere else to get their fingerprints done. We can do it all like one-stop shopping.
That's fantastic. Now, the other aspect of the circuit court area, circuit court records, is the jury clerk.
Oh, yes. I left juries out.
Yeah,
yes.
Talk to me about that.
Oh, my goodness. Yes. The jury clerk is a vital part of how could I forget, our jury. We send out summons to jurors, and a lot of people think, well, how do you get my name in the system? And it's through the Secretary of State. And we don't just pick people's names out. It's randomly done by a computer system. And we send out questionnaires to individuals once they're put on our questionnaire list. And those questionnaires are sent out to the various citizens, and then they fill them out. They have a time frame to fill that out. They send them back in. And then our jury clerk goes through those applications and those questionnaires to see who qualifies for those. And then they're put into a jury pool. If their names are picked through the computer system for the jury pool, depending on how many jurors are needed for that day, there may be 160 some people that come in. And sometimes they're not needed, but we have wonderful bailiffs that come in and give them jury instruction. A lot of times Judge Pittman or the presiding judges will come in and talk to the jurors, the potential jurors. And then they are taken into the courtroom and voir diring, I believe, is done.
That's right. Yep, you're doing good so far.
And those that are picked, serve on the jury. Other times there's pleadings done and the jury isn't needed. But I try to make it a point to talk to the juries as much as I can, just to thank them for doing their civic duty. Sometimes they're a little frustrated about having to come in and sit and wait through the whole process, and they don't understand it. But I think if you make them feel welcome and appreciated and let them know that they're going to, get reimbursed for some of their mileage and that they're a part of the system. And I think it makes them feel better if they have someone come in and talk to them prior to being called in by the bailiff.
Yeah, I think it's important to recognize that jury service isn't McDonald's.
No.
Right? Sometimes jurors have to sit for an hour, 2 hours waiting. Mm-hmm. So talk a little bit about the new space.
Oh, my gosh. I am so excited. Now, when I first started, no one told me that there was a whole renovation project underway. So I ended up, actually, we moved 4 times in the last year and a half. They were renovating the 6th floor, and that was where our circuit court records was located. So we had to move across the street to the Apple Avenue area, and then we had to move back. And the new space is absolutely beautiful. We have a new jury room, and there's adequate seating in there. And then we have an overflow area, which Judge Annette Smedley shares with us as part of her conference room. But it's beautiful. We have a standalone scanner just for the individuals to come in and scan their reports that come in, for them to report and to get their work slips. And it's just a little more comfortable. They have a full kitchen in there, so we have beverages available for them, and it's beautiful. The 6th floor has gone above and beyond what I thought it would look like. I love our new office space. I think it's compatible to our customer base, that they don't feel so crowded and they feel safe. So Vital Records, I absolutely love. on Marquette. People don't have to go through the screening process to come in to get their birth certificates or marriage licenses. And everything looks so much more professional. I'm really excited about the renovations.
Excellent. Well, let's talk a little bit about what I think are some of the most critical functions of the clerk, the county clerk. First and foremost, can you describe a little bit of what your role is as it relates to all the municipal clerks, so the townships and the cities and the villages? What's your role in working with those clerks? Basically,
my role is to disseminate information as I get it from the state. So we meet once a month, and all the cities and township clerks meet, and we talk about new legislation, primarily talked about for the last year and a half, this election coming up. And my role in elections is to take in all of the election results. We do a lot of the training of the precinct workers, new clerks. We try to make sure that they're trained properly. And my job is not to oversee them so much as be a support system to them. When early voting came, we did early voting for the first time last year in January for the presidential primaries. And it was somewhat of an unfunded mandate at first, but then they realized, a lot of times legislators, it looks good on paper, but when you put boots to the ground, it's a little bit different.
Surprising.
So the election equipment that we had, we couldn't use. We had to use different election equipment for early voting. Early voting is...
I don't mean to interrupt you,
yes.
But why?
Well, because the early voting equipment is used as a individual precinct for those 9 days of early voting. And what happens is the 2 weekends before the election, we begin early voting. And our job was to figure out how we were going to do this. We had cities and townships that had part-time clerks. They didn't have the monies to run 9 days of early voting because it would run about $50,000 to $60,000 for the year. So Lori Hayes, who's my elections coordinator, and I worked with the state to do what we call consolidated early voting site. And we did that because we wanted to be able to be more than just a support system for the cities. We were able to eliminate majority of their finances as far as financing the elections. So we decided to have a centrally located site, which was Marquette, and we had the Student Center, which was totally awesome for early voting. And we programmed our computers, so we had various setup of election equipment, and it was based on the individual cities and precincts. So when a voter would come in, they would go to the voting machine, and when they put in their ballot, it would pull up, say, Roosevelt Park. So all of the clerks collaborated and worked with us. They worked the early voting site, all but two. We had Holton and Dalton decided to run their own. Initially in January, we had about 300 people come through. August, we had about 900. November, we were close to 9,000 people come through for early voting. So it took a life of its own. But it took a collaborated effort between all the township clerks and the county. Everybody shared hours. It's a long process. It makes us have to work literally 20 days straight because we have to get ready for the election. We have to hire all the precinct workers. We have to hire all of the inspectors. We have to make sure that we have a balance of Republican and Democratic challengers. And it's a huge undertaking. It was amazing to see it all come together. And we had a really successful early voting. We had a great election. Out of all of the seats that were run, we had one recount. And that recount was successful. They found one vote that was different, and that could have been just a voter not filling in the circle right. But it showed that the integrity of our elections is secure. I don't think a lot of people know that on election night, it's a long night. We are there till 3 or 4 in the morning. And the presiding judge, who happened to be Judge Hoops, was there with us at 4 o'clock in the morning. And he actually comes in when the cities and townships bring in their ballots to our facility on Marquette. We have police officers there to ensure that everything is safe and secure. The judge comes in, he takes the locked ballots and the election information back to the county building and locks them in a safe until that Thursday when the canvassers come in and they bring them back to the county building and begin the canvassing. The Board of Canvassers is consisted of 8 canvassers that are one each of Republican and Democrat. They sit there together. They verify all the numbers. They open up all the seals. They make sure that all of the ballots balance with the tape totals. They make sure if there's any discrepancies. They will actually call in the cities and township clerks to question them if they have any question. And they validate the election results. Once that's completed, which this year took a week and a half, it then goes on to the state, and the State Board of Canvassers does the same thing and validates each city and township.
So it's safe to say, it's going to be a silly question, but it's safe to say it's more than just rolling in a voting machine, plugging it in, logging it into a computer, and let's go.
Yes, absolutely. It starts when candidates file.
Right.
And we're responsible for making sure that their filings are correct. We make sure that their campaign finance reports are correct because all that has to be sent to the state. We provide packets for their people that haven't run before. And then once the deadlines are passed, then we start what we call programming. And we program in all the seats that are up for election, all the jurisdictions, all the precincts. And that takes about 2 weeks of programming. Once the programming is complete, we lock down the election and nothing can be changed. And it's sent to the printer. Once the printers received our information, then they sent back proof ballots. And then we have to send all those proof ballots to all the candidates and all the cities and townships and the proposals that are on the ballots and make sure that everybody's name is spelled right and that all the proposals are clear and concise so that the voter can understand that. And once we receive all of that back, then we send the final print to print and those ballots come out. The absentee ballots come out 45 days prior to the election. And that's when the process begins. Those ballots are sent to the individual precincts, to individual cities and townships, and those clerks send out their absentee ballots, and the process begins, and then we begin our 9 days of early voting, which is wonderful because it gives another avenue for people to vote. There's no reason someone can't vote. You can vote in person on election day, you can vote absentee, or you can vote early voting. So there's so many ways.
Because it's any reason absentee now.
Any
right?
reason. There's no reason that you don't have to be sick or out of town. It's just no reason you can request a absentee ballot. And you can do it online, too. And also people that submit their absentee ballots, they can look online at the state, Michigan.gov state elections department, and you can see where your ballot has been received by your individual precincts. So you can check and make sure. And we have a system, once you come in, for those that voted absentee and they decided they wanted to come try to vote in person, you can't do that because our system will flag that right away. But if you have not voted, you still have your absentee ballot, you can come in on election day and surrender your absentee ballot and vote in person because some people change their mind and they're like, no, I think I want to do this in person. And that's available too. You can also register on the same day of voting. So it really takes all of the excuses away for not voting.
Well, but it certainly has increased your role and responsibility.
Absolutely. And there's new legislation that is coming down the pike that they're talking about curbside voting. So we've got to implement that. Hopefully it won't be an unfunded mandate. So we're going to have to kind of adjust our practice if we have somebody that physically does not want to come into the building and will be coming out to the curb.
And if I heard you correctly, then on election night, all the various precincts,
yes,
everything ends up at
in
the
our office.
County clerk's office.
Yes.
And then you're responsible for sort of broadcasting that.
Broadcasting, they bring in what we call the flash drives, and all the election all the election results are on those flash drives and also on the tape total. So there's a checks and balances. And our responsibility is to upload it into the county system. And then it goes through our IT department and is uploaded so that people can see the election results, which takes a long time. So I've been working with the various cities and townships. And since I sit on legislative committee for the state, we're looking at going back to modeming because waiting till 4 a.m. for somebody to drive in from Casnovia is horse and buggy days. And I know there were some questions prior to me coming back about the security of modeming, but modeming is not internet-based, it's just phone-based. And so there are some cities and townships around the state that still do modeming. So we're going to look at that because we have to update our equipment by 2027. So we will include that in our next upgrade. And I think it'll make it so much easier for the voters, for the candidates, for the election workers to be able to upload their results. And they'll still have to bring in their physical results, but at least we'll have the results from their precincts earlier.
So the check and balance is still going to be there. I mean,
the checks and balances, yes.
I mean, obviously, and this goes without saying, because I think, and this is a little bias on my part, but I think our county, under your leadership, has one of the best election systems in the entire state. And I'm confident that they're very safe and secure, and obviously your description of the process it confirms that, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, we did something a little bit different this election because I was concerned about making sure that the ballots were secure. So what we did was we decided to go with watermark paper so that they could not be duplicated. So it's the same watermark paper that they use for birth certificates and our various vital records. So every ballot was watermarked, so it couldn't be duplicated. So there was no way. It was just another level of security that I think enhanced people's confidence in our election.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I want to finish off here, Karen, with, as we look into 2025 and maybe even 2026, what's anything new and bright coming through the clerk's office that you're working on that you want to give maybe a little sneak preview?
Well, yes. I'm trying to establish a real wedding chapel.
Oh.
Because right now we do what we can with the space that we have, but I think it would be wonderful for people that want to get married without a traditional church wedding to have a real chapel. So we're working with facilities and with administration. So I'll have a real chapel with seating and an aisle and all the things that come with a wedding. So I'm really excited about that. We're expanding my birth certificate program where I do the birth certificates at the rescue mission for the homeless. We've expanded it now from the rescue mission. Now we're working with Goodwill Industries. I'm working with Muskegon Family Care. I'm working with Muskegon Covenant School to work with their students and their families to provide those vital records so that they can get housing and jobs and get enrolled in school for the little ones. So I'm expanding that more. We're looking at possibly some new programming to make the website better for the clerk's office, to make election results easier to find and just make it more user-friendly. And I think that's about it for this year.
Sounds like a couple of pretty hefty projects.
Yes, and to get another election worker for the elections department, because right now we only have one person, that's Lori Hayes, and it's just impossible for one person to do that job. So we need to have a backup and someone else trained to take some of the workload and to share some of the responsibilities. So that's pretty much what I have on the horizon for this year.
Well, that's fantastic. Well, Karen, thank you so much.
Oh, it's been a pleasure. Thank you
for being a part of this program and really digging deep into, the title of Muskegon County Clerk, because there's so many layers there that I know people don't really appreciate and understand. And, it's good people like you leading great people in these various departments that makes Muskegon, this part of the Muskegon County municipal government really work well. So thank you for that.
Absolutely. It's been my pleasure. Thank you, DJ, for having me here. And I'm just so excited about what our future holds for this county.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that wraps up this episode of Muskegon County Municipalities at Work. Please tune in as we continue to dig deeper into cities and townships and villages and all the various aspects that make those communities go and how it essentially becomes part of the whole Muskegon County fabric. Thank you all for listening. And again, this program doesn't happen without the innovation and ingenuity of Mr. Mike Voges.